What's up, witches? Welcome back to Hodgepodge 3D. I'm super excited to see you guys because today we are going to be kicking off a brand new segment here on the channel called Legion Lurkers. Legion Lurkers is going to be focused on everything FiveM, and today is especially going to be no different. We are going to be starting Legion Lurkers off with a bang, and I'm going to be teaching you guys how to set up your very own FiveM server. Whether it's a local host or you have it on a host, doesn't matter. This workflow should be pretty much the same across the board, and it doesn't matter what framework you choose, but today we are going to be making a choice and we are going to be selecting Qbox. Now, Qbox was created by Chat Disabled and some of the original developers that were involved in creating QB or Qbus, and after they left the project behind, Chat created Qbox, which is a framework that is focused on secure code, ethical resource distribution, and integration with the ever so famous resources Ox Inventory, Oxlib, and other overextended products. If you're interested in learning more about Qbox, what the framework has to offer, the community, and all of that, I went ahead and linked the Discord in the description of the video below, as well as everything else you're going to need for today. But go ahead, check it out, meet the community, see if Qbox is for you. I highly suggest it as somebody who has tried ESX and QB. I love Qbox. It is amazing, and 10 out of 10 would recommend. So before we get started, I want to give you guys the steps that we are going to be taking today to get us from 0 all the way done. So we're going to prepare. We're going to download our server artifacts and unpack the server. We're going to install the server and set up our TX admin. Then we're going to deploy the recipe, and then we will sum it all up with starting the server itself and, of course, checking the database to make sure that everything is connected. Now, once you guys have finished watching this video and following the steps, if you have any issues during the installation or your first deployment, please head over to the Discord for whatever framework it is that you've chosen to install and see if they can help you. But first, make sure you go through the video again to double check what you're doing. Let's get started. I'm ready to jump in. So our first step is going to be preparation. And just like any good chef, in order for us to cook, we need to prep our ingredients. And the first thing is first, we need to create a space for our server files to live in. Like I said before, I am making myself a local hosted server. So I'm going to make sure that my folder is somewhere on my computer that is going to have enough space for me to load that bad boy up with scripts or whatever else it is that I am going to need. Now, you don't obviously have to localhost, and if you are looking to host your server, I would highly suggest checking out two of my favorites. We have Prism Host and then One of One. I have links and information for those below, and I would highly suggest staying away from things like Rocket Node and Zap, or anything that advertises itself as a game server. Game servers are not TOS compliant, and they're really not going to be able to give you the support that you need. I know that a lot of them have what looks like a cheaper price point, but in price, what you're sacrificing is actual need for what we're doing today. Okay, so make sure you're using a legitimate host, not a game server. So now that we've created a space for our server files to live, we need to make sure that our database is going to be able to function. And we're going to be grabbing two programs for that. We have MariaDB and then we have Heidi SQL. So the purpose of MariaDB is to make the database actually connectable and functionable, while Heidi is displaying the data from your server. As you can see here, we're going to go ahead, we're going to go through. I make sure that I get the most recent release candidate. You may receive warnings in your server console once your MariaDB is out of date. Always try to make sure that it is up to par. So I'm going to download my MSI package, Windows. You can install this to Linux. I will not be showing you that, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Now keep in mind, I've already installed this, so mine will be different. As you can see here, it's like, oh, do you want to create a new thing? No, you're not going to see that unless you've already installed MariaDB. We're just going to click through. Now, this is something interesting that is up to you. The very first thing that you're definitely going to want to check is the UTF-8. You can choose if you want to have a password for your root user for the database, but if you do choose to have a password, make sure that you have documented this password thoroughly. If you go to log into your database by the root user and you can't, because of the password, you're going to want to do this installation all over again. So make sure that you've fully documented whatever password it is that you want. I'm not putting a password. It's just my local host. Nobody is going to need anything from that. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that. Now, once you go ahead and hit next, it's going to ask you what you want to call your service, and it's going to give you a port. If you run into an error where it's like this port is already used, you are going to want to change it. I would just go up by 1 or whatever you want the port to be. You will have to change this in Heidi SQL, and you will need to open this port on port forwarding, and we're going to go over port forwarding here in just a minute. So if that's something that you're going to end up needing, do not worry, because we are about to go over that. Since I already have MariaDB installed, I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel because I'm not going to go through with the full installation like you guys are. So just ignore the fact that I'm going to hit cancel. But now we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab Heidi SQL. Heidi SQL is a program that is meant to display the data from your database. This is a program that you can use both on your machine that is hosting your server, or you can even use this on a different machine to access your database. You're just going to need the information that you have for your server. Now, the installation and setup for Heidi SQL, very straightforward. It's like 3 clicks, so I'm not going to show you that, but you're going to use the very top link where it says installer 64-bit next to that yellow icon. Once you open up Heidi, as you can see here, I already had like a database. I'm going to delete that, but you're going to see this. It's going to ask you for something new. You're going to hit new. You can name it whatever you want. I name my stuff. So, if you are using Heidi SQL to access a database that is on another machine or whatever, you're going to want to change where it has your IP address. Right now it's the 127 for me, and that's because it's local. But if you have a user and password, because you can generate them for your databases, you can put them in there. And remember, the root is basically like the admin login. If you have a password, this is going to be where you put that in. This is also where if you put a password and you do it incorrectly, that it's going to give you an error. Now, opening this, you're going to see there's really nothing in there that is alluding to a FiveM server, and that's because we haven't installed it. But this is what it should look like the very first time that you actually open a non-FiveM associated yet database. Okay? Excellent. All right, so we have created a folder space. We have downloaded and installed MariaDB and Heidi SQL. The next step that we're going to do is opening our ports. Now, opening our ports is extraordinarily important, especially if you're going to have a server that other people are going to connect to. It's basically like having an on-ramp onto a highway. If the entrance is blocked, people cannot get onto the highway and journey and travel to their destination, which is your server. So we're going to be doing some port opening, and I'm going to show you guys how. So we're going to type in firewall, and we're going to open the Windows Defender Firewall and Advanced Security, and this is what it's going to look like. We are going to do 4 rules, 2 on the inbound, 2 on the outbound, and they are going to be for the port 30120 or 3120. This is the default TCP and UDP port that your players are going to need in order to access your server. If you're having issues accessing TXadmin, which is 4120, you can do this here as well. So we're going to go to inbound rule. We're going to hit new rule. I'm going to show you just one, and you can rinse and repeat. So we're going to go to port. which we're going to type in 30120, and you're going to select either TCP or UDP, depending on what step you're at. We're going to go ahead, we're going to select where we're at, we're going to hit next, we're going to allow the connection. I leave everything checked, and then I name this FiveM1, and then when I do my second rule, I do FiveM2, and I'll do that in both inbound and outbound. I'm obviously not going to add it here. I already have that done. You will just hit finish. I will hit cancel. Now, before I go ahead and hit cancel and all of that, I want to talk about what we are going to do next, just so that I can prepare you guys. So we are going to be grabbing what is called our server key. This was also known as Keymaster, and right now it's the early months of 2025, but CFX already announced that they will be taking down Keymaster and putting everything into the CFX portal instead. So do not be alarmed that we are not going to be going to keymaster.cfx, whatever. We're going to a completely different website. So let's go ahead, and like I said before, we're going to hit cancel, and we're going to go ahead and pull up our portal.cfxre. This is going to be where your assets are stored and your server keys and your subscription to FiveM. That's going to be where all of that information is and hosted at. So like I said, portal.cfx.re, it's going to pull you up to your dashboard. If you have never done this before, you're just going to click create a key. In this instance, I've definitely created a server before, so I'm going to go up to my servers area, and I'm just going to make sure that I have a key that is active, which I do, and that is going to be all I need for preparing the server. Which is very exciting, because now that means that we can go on to our next step. We are done with the preparation. We're ready to cook. All right, so now that we've done our preparation stage, we've created the folder location, we've downloaded and installed MariaDB, Heidi SQL, we've opened our ports, and we've prepared by grabbing our server registration key. We're going to grab the next most important thing and jump into step 2, which is to download the server artifacts and unpack the server. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to just open Google. We're going to type in FiveM server artifacts, and it should be the very first result. You are going to see two options at the top, the latest recommended and the latest optional. Do not use these. These artifacts are well over a year old. As you can see underneath that, we are already at 13,000. So we're going to grab the latest artifact, which is 1345. This was literally just added today as I'm recording this video. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to grab that. When you download your server artifacts, make sure to put them into the folder where your server is actually going to deploy from, and you're going to unpack it there. Now, I do not delete the RAR file or the zip folder for server setup until I have completed the very last step and made sure that my server deploys. This is simply just because if I ever make a mistake during the setup and stuff, I can just simply delete and redeploy and do all of that all over again to fix whatever error I have. So that's my personal suggestion, and that's what I'm going to do here. But now we're going to open the server folder. You may get overwhelmed. There's a lot of files inside, and this is basically the foundation of FiveM. These files are what make FiveM run for the server, and we're going to be looking for a specific icon. It's a red icon, and it will say FX server. When we launch this, it is going to begin the process of starting the server. You will run, instead of this every time, you will run what's called a bat file, but this is going to be the initial setup for a server. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to click this. It's going to open a command prompt. So do not be nervous that it's opening a command prompt. It's supposed to do that. But before it does, it may pop you up with this. Just hit more info, run it anyway. This is your computer trying to make sure that it's protecting itself and that you know what you're running. So on the first run, it's going to give you some information. It's going to ask you to access the firewall, and it's going to just pop that Google Chrome right open. We're going to just take it one step at a time. First, we're going to give it access the firewall. We're going to hit yes, we need this to have access. And then we're gonna look at our command prompt. It's giving us some information. First, it's telling you basically the URL that you'll use in order to access txadmin, whether it's your local host or you're actually using an IP, and it's going to give you the pin that you're going to need to basically sync your server data to the installer, okay? But what happened automatically was that your browser window popped open and it said, hey, we need to link the account. It's going to automatically put that pin in. If it doesn't, do not panic. If it doesn't put the pin in, just type it in there. It's not a big deal. We're going to hit link account. And because we're already logged in for the server key, it's going to just have us authorize instead of signing in. We're going to hit continue and it's going to start the process. Now, I would highly suggest plopping your Discord ID in here. It is optional. If you don't know how to do that, maybe I'll make a video about grabbing that. It'll be like a very quick short, but you just need to make some setting adjustments for developer settings in Discord. You'll right click yourself, you'll copy the Discord ID, and you'll plop it in there. That is really for permissions, especially if you have the txadmin bot in your Discord. It's going to read the Discord ID for your perms. So I put that in, I've picked a backup password, I've said, yes, I agree to the terms and blah, blah, blah. And then we're going to hit register. So now we're in txadmin and this is the recipe deployer, okay? This is going to be our next step, step 4, which is very exciting because that means that we're almost there. Now, if you've never seen a txadmin portal before, it can be a little overwhelming because there's so much to click and kind of look at. And in another video, we will go over the txadmin portal, but for now, you know, we're just gonna kind of do what we came here to do, which is to deploy this recipe. I hope you guys are excited, because I am, because our next step is to hit next and we're going to name our server. You can choose to name it whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Typically this will be where your server name is. So I'm going to actually choose Legion Lurkers. I'm just going to hit next on that. And then we're going to jump into deployment type. So I know that I probably sound a lot different than the beginning of this video, and I just wanted to apologize, but ever since I made the original of this, things have changed a little bit. So I wanted to let you guys know that Qbox is now officially on the recipe deployer, and that's what we're going to be doing today. So essentially, after you name your server, you're just going to click the next button and you're going to go to the deployment type. This is going to show you all of the servers that txadmin has put in the recipe logger. And so basically Qbox is here now. We are right above QB Core and just under ESX Legacy. You're just going to click that. You're going to tell the files in the server where it needs to be installed to, and then we're going to do the exciting step of deploying the recipe. Now you can adjust where it says like the name and the author and all of that. You can change that. I'm not going to. I am simply going to hit next on this. And this is going to be the next important step. So first, I'm going to drop down the database information here, okay? And we're going to grab our license key. Thankfully, we still left our portal open, so we're just simply going to go over to the server registration keys, copy that, and we're just going to throw that in. Now with the database, if you're local hosted, do not worry about anything. This is fine, unless you have to change like the port, or if you have a password. But if you are on an actual box or a VPS, you're going to replace the local host with the IP, the root, the password, whatever information needs to be there. Now I'm going to change the name of my database. On default, it'll give you like Qbox project, blah, blah, blah. But I have 2 local hosts that I run. One for my Legion Lurker series, and then I'm also working on my showcase server for my 3D models and stuff I make for FiveM. So I'm going to name it Legion Lurkers, and I'm going to go ahead and finally click the button we've been waiting for, which is Run Recipe. Now, something to keep in mind when you're running the recipe is that sometimes some people can get an error when doing this, and it's going to be a GitHub error, and it's going to tell you that you are being rate limited. This means there's too much traffic at once, basically. It can't handle it, and it needs you to chill out, as it would say. You didn't do anything, Qbox didn't do anything, TXadmin didn't do anything. This is just a GitHub thing that it does sometimes. If this is you and it happens to you, please just go ahead and wait 15 to 20 minutes and redeploy the recipe, okay? Once your server recipe has finished, it's gonna automatically open the file place where your server resources are gonna go, essentially. This is gonna hold your config file, and then you have your resources folder, which is where you're gonna find all of the assets, scripts, blah, 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 that your server is going to hold. In this case, we're still going to power through because now we have deployed our recipe, it's installed the server, and we're going to head back over to TXadmin really quick to go ahead and take a look at our config file. This config file is so important for any server. Please go through it. Now, if you're just doing basic development, and you're not ready to subscribe yet, you can change your max clients to 10 or under, and that will allow you to stream custom clothing, custom vehicles. Anything over 10 players, you will need to have a subscription for CFX. So I'm going to change mine personally to 5. I feel like 10 is such a huge number. It freaks me out for my local host. So yeah. But basically what a server config file is these are what are called convars and settings for your framework and some scripts that need, information put into the config. This is basically telling your server what to do, how to run, blah, 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 blah. This is also where information like your logo, if you want to change the logo for your server, that's where it's going to be. If you want to add how your server is displayed on the little server list and stuff like that, this is where that's going to go. If you want to change things like your message of the day or tags or whatever, this is all where that's at. This is the config or configuration of your server. So please make sure that you are taking the time to go through these, read them, bada bing, bada boom. One of the biggest and most important things, though, is to ensure if you are coming over from QB-Core, there is a setting here in the Qbox config on line 24 where it says to enable the bridge. By default, this is on true, meaning that QB resources, and I'd say between 97 to 99% of QB resources should work automatically on Qbox. Now, that isn't to say that you may not have to do a little finagling and some changes here and there, but for the most part, the majority of scripts just plug and play as they would before you have to, configure them and do the basic stuff. If you log into your server, it's going to greet you. It's going to say, welcome to Qbox, blah, blah, blah. Message of the day. Okay, line 39. That is going to be where you change that. You can set it to whatever you want or just nothing, okay? So yeah, as you guys can see, there's a lot of information in the server config. It's super important, especially your resource loading order. This is very important. So make sure when you're installing your resources, you're paying attention to this. And earlier when we gave TXadmin like our Discord ID, as you can see here down at the bottom, it gave us that in our permissions. That's why it is so important for whoever's setting up the server to put that information in there, because it's going to link us to our FiveM, it's going to link us to our Discord, and that's automatically going to give us the admin perms. So now is the moment we've been waiting for. We're going to hit it. We're going to save and run the server. We are deploying it for the very first time. So what we're looking at right now, this is called the console. This is where we're going to see our server loading. We're going to see our resources. Any errors that are console sided are going to be here. And once you see the cfx.re at the bottom, you know your server has successfully deployed. If you are at this point, there should be no errors, no red, nothing. It should just look just like this. But if you're in an unfortunate situation where this is filled by red, you have done something wrong. And I urge you to go back in the video and go through the different steps, make sure that you did them properly, especially your artifacts and especially MariaDB. Like I mentioned earlier, XAMPP is not up to date with MySQL information, so that can cause an error when loading the server because it can't fully connect. So make sure that you've gone through everything, you've did it, and now we are going to go ahead and launch the server. Before we load up our server, let's open up our database, go back to Heidi SQL, press F5 to refresh, and we should see our server as appeared. If we open that, we're going to see a ton of tables. You're going to be like, what the actual fuck? To see our player information, we're going to go to the players table, but when you click on one, it's going to look like this. Do not panic. This is simple. We're going to go up to the top where it says data, and we're going to click that because that is going to be how we actually display the information. This window is just simply telling you how it is formatted. And we're going to test to make sure that our database is fully connected once we join into our actual server. So if you are local hosting or hosting your server, you're going to connect to it one of two ways. If you're a local host like me, it's going to just show up automatically on your FiveM page if it's started. If it is a actual hosted server, you can find it through the play button and you can type in your server name. If you don't see it there, you will have to do an F8 connect, which, you press F8, you type in connect space IP:30120, and that should start to connect you to your server. So as you can see, it says connect to your desktop on LAN. We're going to go ahead and click that, and this should start to load your server. As long as we don't have any errors, as long as we don't have any issues, this should be pretty straightforward and streamlined, and this should allow us to begin the connection process into our server. All right, so we're going to test out our database, and this is going to be how we do it. Creating a character. So when a player joins your server, you're going to have your multi-character, which I know some of you are like, I don't want to use this one. I have one of my own, blah, 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 blah. Do not worry. It's very simple to disable this so that you can use your own. Fear not. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to create our character. We're going to select the apartment they live in, and then we're going to double check our database to ensure that that information is connected. First, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to save my appearance. I'm not even going to fuck with it. And now we're going to tab into Heidi SQL just to make sure that our player was created. We're going to hit F5 and boom, our information, our data is there. That shows us the server is fully pulling the data. Now, if you have a situation where it does this and then you're not able to select your character or delete it or something is wrong with the connection between the database and your server, you need to once again go back through the video and see what you may have done wrong. But otherwise, as long as everything is okay, congratulations. I'm super excited to announce that you have passed the course and now you have started your very own FiveM server for the very first time. I am so excited for you, and thank you guys so much for paying attention through this whole video. I know it was a bit wordy. There's a lot of information that I've been throwing at you, but I hope that this helps and that you guys have an amazing FiveM experience. Don't forget to like and subscribe, join my Discord, hang out with me. If you own a server, leave it below and maybe I will come and check it out. Have a great day, you guys, and thanks for doing a little bit of magic.